Hey friends, Shay here. So today we are here to kind of check in with quarter one reading, how things went, changes that I might be making, and statistics. So we're going to also talk about a few of my favorite reads. I think I'm just going to do my top 3. I don't want this video to be forever long, so I think that's the route that we're going to go. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's go ahead and start with the book statistics, and then we'll jump into the manga statistics. So when it comes to books, overall for the year, I have read 61 books. Now, personally, that's a little bit higher than I wanted it to be, but I'm okay with this number because I did some projects that required me to read certain things and some things like that. And I think the next quarter will be more on par with where I want it to be book reading wise, because I'm not putting a lot of pressure on me to read a certain amount. So I think the next quarter will be good for that number. The formats in which I read things, I read 22 physical books, 19 ebooks, which I'm very proud of because I'm really bad about reading my ebooks sometimes, and then 20 audiobooks. So some of my physicals I did read on audio and some things like that. So I like the balance here. I'm pretty evenly spread across the formats in which I'm consuming it, which is something that I am actually really proud of because I feel like I can read in any form and really enjoy it. Now, when it comes to rereads, I did reread 4 titles. Most of those were in the month of March, and most of them have been Mariana Zapata because she's kind of a comfort author, and things were not so great for me in March, as you know. So rereading is one way that I kind of cope when I'm not doing well, and it helps me get through things. When it comes to Kindle Unlimited, 4 of the titles that I read came from Kindle Unlimited. My average star rating for this quarter was 3.95, which is actually fantastic considering I had some real busts. Like, I had some really bad reads in this quarter as well. So having an average star rating that high makes me super happy. So let's break down my genres read. I'm going to break down my romances separate from that because I have quite a few like formats of romance that I read. So let's start with just the other genres that I ended up reading this quarter. So first up, I read 9 light novels in Danmei, which is nice and high for me, which I really, really like. When it comes to literary fiction, I only ended up reading 2. Both of those happen to also be works in translation. So literary fiction is something I definitely want to dive into more, and I plan on diving into a lot more in this quarter. I only have one kind of like vlog planned at this moment, which I'm currently in the middle of filming. So maybe if you have an idea for me to explore literary fiction in a particular video, leave those down below because I'd love to get your input. When it comes to historical fiction, I read 9 in the first quarter because 1 I snuck in at the end of 2022, technically, for the Goodreads project. If you have not watched this collab project that I did with a bunch of other YouTubers, I will leave the playlist linked in the corner so you can go and check it out. We all took on a genre of reading from the Goodreads Choice Awards, and we read the winners of the last 10 years. It was quite a feat. I did find some favorites in that project, so that makes me really happy. So yes, that was a really good amount of reading for me. When it comes to fantasy, I read 3 fantasy titles, which is a bit low for me. That number will definitely be going up in the next quarter. Nonfiction, I read 2. I would like this number a little bit higher. I'm liking the nonfiction that I've been exploring, so that's going to continue to come forward. And I did read 1 comic. I did not put it with my manga stats because I feel like comics are more like where bookish people are, and you're going to be seeing more of that in the next quarter, which I'm super excited about. Now let's talk about the romance reading that got done. So when it comes to romances, I read 34 total. So I have primarily been reading romance in this last quarter. And again, that is something that I want to change. I wanted a little more balance where I'm reading other things as well as romance. So you're going to see that number shift in the next quarter. When it comes to cowboy romances, I read 9 because I read a couple for enjoyment, and then I did that experiment where I tried out some different authors. If you missed that video, again, that will be linked in the corner. When it comes to contemporary romances, I read 4. Fantasy romances, I also read 4. Paranormal romances, I read 10. I tend to gravitate towards paranormal romances lately. I'm really enjoying exploring paranormal romances. So paranormal, I'm also including like alien romances and things like that. So paranormal is kind of all encompassing at this point. Historical romances, I only read 2. Both of them were kind of flops for me, but they were by the same author. I do plan to read a little more historical fiction in the next quarter, so I am excited about that. And then other romances that I couldn't really like figure out how to categorize, I guess. There were 5. So quarter 1 stats were really pretty good. Like I'm happy with most of that. Like I said, I want to broaden things a little bit more, a little less romance, a little more other things. But yeah. So let's quickly talk about Read What You Own. As I've mentioned in my reset, Izzy and I have both really been enjoying focusing on the books we already own. So we are going to extend it throughout the year, but I thought you guys would be interested in my quarter 1 stats. So physical start, I had 228. At the end, I had 233. This includes like my book of the months coming in, the things I picked up in Tennessee, and all that kind of stuff. So I am happy that it's as close as it is considering how many came in the first quarter of the year. So my ebook start at the beginning of the year was 824, and then at the end it is 753. Now the reason why this is so significantly lower is I did go through and prune a few more of the titles. So I'm feeling a lot better about that. So 753, is the current number that I'll be starting the next quarter with. When it comes to audio, I started with 22, and considering how many audios came in through like Libro FM, because I have an ARC influencer account with them. By the way, if you're interested in Libro FM, I will leave a link down below. Libro's amazing. I really love them. I'm at 19 on my last count. So I do think because I did a lot of rereading, primarily on audio, that's why that number's so low. So that is my book statistics for the first quarter of the year. Let's jump into manga stats. When it comes to total manga read in the first quarter of the year, I have read 152 volumes. And again, that's a little high, but I'm okay with it. I feel comfortable at the rate I'm consuming manga. I'm not reading a ton of manga every day or anything like I used to. So yeah, I'm really pretty happy with that. 11 of those volumes of the 152 were rereads. So I reread the first volume of One Piece, and then I have my Yona read-along rereads. So again, if you're not familiar with what is going on with Yona along, me, Izzy from Happy For Now, and Marg from Marg Reads Manga are all reading through all of Yona of the Dawn. The goal is an average of 1 a week. We've all been rereading it, and it's been great. I will leave I'll leave the volume 1 through 5 discussion in the corner so that you guys can kind of check in and see what's going on there. And then the average star rating is 4.24. I've gotten a lot pickier with the manga that I'm bringing in and consuming over the years, so that average rating tracks for me. I had a lot of 5s, a bunch of 4s, and a few that were lower. So that number feels about right for me. So let's break down the demographics. So when it comes to shonen manga, this was my most read demographic this quarter, which is surprising to me, but at the same time not, because I'm reading One Piece. And then I read all of Demon Slayer. I have a vlog for that. I'll leave that linked in the corner. And so 61 is the number. It's high, but I'm okay. My next highest demographic tracks for me, and that is shoujo, and that is 40 volumes of shoujo. And then I did 21 seinen and 20 josei. I wish josei was a little bit higher, so I'm hoping. So when it comes to Read What You Own, these are the most accurate number I currently have. I don't think it's quite right. I think I need to add a few things to the TBR. So I started the year at 150 volumes. I did already add all the things that I brought in from Tennessee. So like February to March, it stayed at 150 because of that. And then going into March, I was at 114 physical volumes, which felt really good. And then I ended the month of March at 99. My battery's gonna die, so I'm really happy with my manga stats. I'm gonna change my battery and we'll talk more. Drink break. Alrighty, so let's talk about some favorite manga reads before we go back to books. So when it comes to manga, some of my favorite series that I started this year were Yakuza Fiancé, which is a dark, twisty, kind of toxic romance that's Yakuza style. I'm really enjoying this. If you like things like Something's Wrong with Us, this is going to be a great comp for that because it'll give you that kind of vibe. And it's coming out a little more quickly than the end of Something's Wrong with Us is. So I think that's something really good that you can sink your teeth into while we're waiting for the end of Something's Wrong with Us. Another one that I ended up really enjoying this quarter was Kaiju number 8, which really surprised me. I did a dedicated reading video for the first 5 volumes on this one, and I will leave that linked in the corner for you. Obviously, I've been loving my read of One Piece. That's member exclusive videos, so I haven't talked about it much on the public channel. So if you're interested in my thoughts on One Piece and my journey with One Piece, feel free to look at joining my membership. I have it at 1 tier. It's a very low rate. I give you early access to videos, and then I give you the exclusive vlogs for Yona and for One Piece. So that's kind of what my members are getting this year. Things will change and evolve, and I might add some more tiers. I'm still kind of figuring that out for myself. Another one that I really enjoyed is Demon Slayer. I did an entire reading vlog for that and really, really enjoyed it. Anything that doesn't fit in the cards, I will leave linked down below. And I read the entire series over a course of like 2 days, and that's 23 volumes. So I had those couple of days off and I really enjoyed my time with it. So the other thing I would say is one of my favorites that I started this quarter is The Girl I Like Forgot Her Glasses. This is a really cheeky romance about a couple of kids. There's this girl who left her glasses at home and she can't really see anything. She has to be like right up on it to read it. And so she ends up having to sit really close to the boy next to her who happens to have a crush on her. There's so much blushing. It's absolutely adorable. So there's a few of my favorite manga titles that I started in this quarter. And yes, I just thought you guys would like to know some of my favorites before I move back into books. So let's talk about some of my favorite reads for the quarter. I can tell you straight up, my favorite read of this quarter is A Soul to Keep by Opal Rain. This is based actually on 2 manga series that I absolutely love, which are The Ancient Magus Bride and Demon Slayer. So the whole world is more Demon Slayer, but the character of Orpheus is very Elias from Ancient Magus Bride. So this is a good crossover for my manga readers to try a book if you're wanting a really high steam smutty romance with a weird peen, and like he's very like Elias in that he's trying to understand humanity through the partner that he chooses. Now, Rhea, I believe is her name. I believe it's Rhea. She is not like Chisei. You do see a nod to Chisei in the book, but she is very different. She's blonde. Her personality is very different. So if you're expecting Chisei and Elias, that's not going to happen. But I really am happy with all of the nods to Ancient Magus that you find throughout, and the little nods to Demon Slayer that you find throughout. It was just peak. It was just so good, and I really, really loved it. It was everything that I wanted in a book and more, and I cannot recommend this one enough. Now, one of the biggest surprises of this last quarter, I would say, is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I read this for the Goodreads experiment, and I fell in love with this historical fiction. This is a book in which we're following a young teen. We follow her from the ages of 13 to about 24, 25. So we follow about 12 years of her life. Her father has PTSD from the Vietnam War. So he gets gifted a piece of land up in rural Alaska. So they go to Alaska to kind of live off grid and live up there because the dad thinks he's going to do better there. But because of the PTSD and the depression attached to that, obviously being in Alaska is very, very bad. And so while she's there, she meets a boy her age named Matthew, and they form a beautiful friendship that starts to develop into a relationship as they get older. So we see the toxic relationship that her parents have and how she doesn't want that. And we see how she's developing a relationship with Matthew, and just the survival and the descriptions of rural Alaska were stunning. I really enjoyed this book. This is a hard, heavy-hitting book because you see her dad abuse her mom. So check your triggers. This definitely has domestic abuse and other forms of trauma. Physical, emotional, gaslighting, pretty much anything you would expect out of a toxic family unit you could expect from this. So It's a heavy hitting book, and I don't think this book is going to be for everybody, but I was pleasantly surprised by this. I can totally understand why this one won the year it won, not just because of Kristen Hanna's name, because this came after The Nightingale, but because the book is genuinely that good. It was definitely my favorite read from the reading experiment of the Goodreads Choice Awards, but yes, I definitely was surprised by that, and I really enjoyed it. The other one that I'm going to call a favorite for this quarter is not going to surprise anybody. We're going back to the romances, and this is going to be I Married a Dryad by Regine Abel. For those of you who don't know, Regine Abel is a BIPOC author who writes amazing alien romances. Her Prime Mating Agency is currently my favorite, though she has another series that looks very intriguing that I haven't started yet. So I think I might dive into that in the next quarter or two. In this one, obviously our man is a dryad, but this one has a little bit different of a setup because they're not technically going through the agency, though Kayog is the one setting them up, because he's like, you two are too perfect for each other. Like, I have to set you up. But because the dryads are already members, like, they're not considered like a primal planet because of their technology, and they share it with the Union and stuff. They don't technically qualify for the Prime Mating Agency. But because Kayog is Kayog, and those of you who know Kayog know, he sets them up anyway. And so she shows up on his planet, and they truly are precious. And all of their conflicts really are external rather than internal. They have obviously some growing pains, as any couple in that kind of situation would. But otherwise, all of their conflicts are external and like people reacting to her or other outside things. And it's amazing. I loved everything about this. So those are going to be my top 3 reads for the first quarter. I loved it. Like, my reading in the first quarter was absolutely fantastic. I have no regrets. Yes, it was a little more than I was expecting, but considering some of the reading projects that I did, it makes more sense. So I hope you guys find this video like interesting or helpful to kind of get a recap on my reading for the quarter, where I do my resets and stuff. I thought you guys would really enjoy this as well. So anyways, if you're here just because you love me, leave me your favorite flower emoji, because it finally freaking feels like spring in Utah. So yes. Anyways, thank you guys again for watching this, and I love you all. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
It's been raining for days now, been running like a child. Can't feel the cold, well, I'm lost here with you, lost in these woods. Lost as I should.